So we'll be speaking to the editor of Air and Travel magazine, Eoghan Corry. Welcome back. I'm joined now by Eoghan Corry, editor of Air and Travel magazine. Eoghan, who are we to believe? The CMO says don't travel unless it's absolutely essential abroad, and Michael O'Leary saying that bookings for July and August are going gangbusters.
I think gangbusters may be overstating it, Ivan. He says it has doubled week on week. It doubled the first week, it doubled the second week, but we're coming off a very low base. The reality is the consumer is very anxious about flying, and until we get an end to the mixed messaging, I don't think we'll see people returning to the skies in large numbers.
Now, both here and in the UK, the outward traffic is good, but the quarantine, how sustainable is that? Because it doesn't seem very enforceable.
That's the problem. It's illegal not to fill the locator form, Ivan. It's not illegal to break the quarantine. And we are a little bit isolated on this. June the 15th is a key date for the coming down of borders across Europe. A few countries before, a few countries after. But July the 1st is Ryanair, 40% of the fleet back in the sky. And the only countries left with quarantines at that stage will probably be ourselves and Britain. Now, a lot of the ire is being drawn by Britain. They really haven't noticed the Irish one, but it is a question of how sustainable it is. As I say, not legally enforceable, although the locator form is.
And how safe is air travel, do you think?
Air travel is going to be the safest part of the whole journey by the sound of things. The HEPA filters, it gives you air filtration, which is to the level of a hospital theatre. All very good. That's what the aviation industry have been telling us. But it's not really just about that couple of hours on the flight. It's also getting through the airport, getting to and from the airport. So a lot of convincing to be done before people are actually comfortable with that entire journey, and also what the experience is going to be like on the other side. It's going to be compulsory to wear a mask on an aircraft, but what's going to be open, what's going to be like with social distancing, which a lot of European countries have, not requiring masks in most of the places Irish people go on holidays, and there are a lot of places like the Canary Islands which have very low infection rates, look very inviting, but nobody's quite sure until the first passengers come back to spread the word.
Finally, what's the problem with insurance? While there's a negative travel advisory, is all insurance void or what?
Pretty much. Department of Foreign Affairs, all but essential travel. It means that the insurance is void. That's not an issue when you're buying insurance, as viewers will well know. These things start cropping up when you make a claim, and that's when insurance companies look for the get-out clause. Not the biggest issue for Ryanair, because the European Health Insurance Card will apply. That's essential. If you're going to be flying to Spain, Portugal, those places that are open, it is a bigger issue with long haul, but we're nowhere near travelling in numbers in long haul. July the 1st, probably the first 2 weeks, we'll see a lot of empty aircraft. It'll be more interesting what happens in August. Ryanair have 60% of the fleet in the sky in August and 80% in September. I think Ryanair are probably playing the long game on this one.
Okay, lastly, you're on the tourism task force for the domestic industry. They met today. How grim is it?
It's a shattered industry, Ivan. We just have to pick up the piece, get short-term supports. We also have to throw a lot of thought and invention into how we're going to sustain Ireland's presence in the new changed environment, and to make sure there is an industry for people to come and visit. Aviation, we would definitely keep on the supply side our shape, because we've two strong airlines. The demand side may change otherwise, but there's a lot of things going in our favour. One of them is, in the post-COVID world, the sort of tourism we're looking at is going to be green, outdoor, the wind blowing through your hair. Right. We've got that in spades. And we also have that aviation advantage, and the fact that Irish do tourism. It's in our genes. We're very good at it. Our politicians, right down to the teenager who's asked for directions.
Eoghan Corry, thank you. Okay, Fergal, let's just deal with this travel issue first of all, on the quarantine. Fundamentally, unlike Britain or Germany with 60 million population, we can't live off our own consumption. We are an island. We must trade, we must travel, we must have inward revenue. Do you think we need to become realistic about the quarantine rule?
Yes, I think we need to look at the issue of air bridges to countries which have lower infection rates than we have. We are a small open economy. We need inward investment. We need exports. We need an economy that's serving society. And I'm not sure a quarantine will meet those needs. I'm not a medical person, but surely it should be okay to travel to countries that have lower infection rates than us. And I'd be hoping at some point over the next few weeks the government will look at limiting in some way the quarantine.
The issue of temperature testing at the airport, doing everything. Okay, fill out the form, trace the people. But we cannot indefinitely, as the rest of Europe opens up, stay closed as an island.
No, absolutely, and that's not the intention. The legal parameters around the quarantine expires on the 18th of June, and at that stage there's a full review over how much longer we can keep it going. And again, as Fergal said, if the numbers around the continent in particular are dropping down and we start to see the cases in a position, there is of course the option to open up. At this stage we're looking more likely at the 20th of July after that date, but it's not something that's ruled out. There are people coming into the country at this stage. We haven't fully closed our borders like continental colleagues in Austria.
It's not actually, the form is enforceable, but the actual quarantine is not legally enforceable.
Well, the form is enforceable and then the follow-up is mandatory thereafter. We had, in fairness, before the form being legally enforceable, 70% of people were abiding by the quarantine, and we're talking about very low numbers, no more than 500 people coming into our airports that were open in any one day. That has, as I said, the follow-up has been there. People are liable to get 1, 2, if not 3 phone calls, and indeed spot checks, which have occurred to make sure people are maintaining that quarantine. They have been carried out. Well, let's see, hopefully, I'd love if we're in a position on the 18th of June to say, well, you know what, come the 20th of July, we do want people coming. But in the meantime, for all those people who are in Ireland, the message has to get across to holiday at home, to take that advantage and to take every opportunity that we can to salvage some sort of